very good morning to you and welcome to K24 this morning. Like we like saying, the best way to have your morning cup of tea. And my name is Mungala Mbuvi. This is where the show begins as we look at what is currently trending on the newspapers, the headlines. Starting with which, let's check out the People Daily. And all you need to do to get this conversation, or rather to join the conversation, is dial *550*4# and for only 10 shillings every single day, you will get this particular paper straight to your device, your tablet, your phone, your computer, and you do not need any data or an application to access it. *550*4#, and this is what you get today. Death threats cited in 7.6 billion shillings KEMSA tenders. That is the headlines on the People Daily. Death threats cited in 7.6 billion shillings KEMSA tenders. Some of the individuals involved have actually agreed, or rather have say that they did append their signatures on some of the documents that are in contention. And it goes on to say on the very front page, the MPs are told how suspended CEO Manjari hosted Sakaja in his office as he intimidated and coerced top managers to issue commitment letters for procurement of COVID-19 related items, despite being warned of lack of funds. That full story on page 8. Get your copy and you will join the conversation on that one as well. At the very top, we can see that Biden calls President Uhuru and pledges support for Kenya's causes. On page 4 is where the full story is. U.S. leader offers to support war against terror, climate change, and refugees program. Also, to the very right, you will see that Ruto to DCI. Stop dangerous games. What dangerous games are these? Well, the full story is on page 5. And as we go down south, we do remember that yesterday was World AIDS Day, where Doreen is saying that HIV is a tiny virus given much power. She has been positive since 1992. The story is on page 12. And still going down, 6,600 teachers to be recruited in COVID stimulus. Now, the Ministry of Education, in conjunction with the Ministry of Health, have said that they are trying their level best to make sure that they cushion teachers and students in these very hard times. Get your copy and, of course, read the full story. On to the Daily Nation. The headline says, murder threat in COVID billions theft plot. Again, another headline talking about the same thing. And this is what it goes on to caption, that spilling the beans in a shocking confession to MPs, suspended KEMSA procurement officer reveals how government officials pushed their cronies to get multi-billion shilling tenders fraudulently. Story is on page 7. And Sonko Oster unstoppable claim MCAs, something we might just touch on today as we get our conversation going on. And on The Hague, you can't abandon me now, please Gicheru from ICC. And he goes on to say that, or rather it goes on to say, lawyer John Kaminiwa for International Criminal Court, suspect Paul Gicheru protests Kenya's disinterest in securing the release of his client, who is detained at The Hague after surrendering. Well, that is a story of great interest. Check it on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And last but not least, up for grabs now, 6,674 teaching internship jobs and 500 promotions as well. The TSC obviously coming on this particular story. Get your copy of the Daily Nation for much more on that one. Moving on to the Standard. Rotich says that I was fixed. Well, page 6 says, for over 5 years, former Treasury CS Henry Rotich was one of the most sought-after persons in government. Then came the big cloud over Aurora and Kimwarer dams. Now he tells court he was made the sacrificial lamb in a project he had no procurement control over and that he had been sanctioned at cabinet level. Full story on page 6. And still on the Standard, state workers to lose jobs in IMF deal at the very top. Thousands of parastatal workers could be rendered jobless as the government implements reforms to cut waste, which will involve dissolution and mergers of hundreds of state corporations to meet IMF's lending terms. Our story is on page 2 as Kenya continues to borrow more money. And still on KEMSA, shame as PPE rot away. Well, 5.9 billion equipment and suppliers left to rot, or other supplies left to rot at agencies' warehouses as investigations drag on, exposing health workers to the sting of coronavirus pandemic. What does this mean as the country continues to battle COVID-19? Well, that story is on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. And of course, the pullout on entertainment is on page 10. Get more of that. Lastly, let's check out what is on the Star newspaper. And the headline says, DP Ruto's BBI game plan as he meets 150 MPs. calls for consensus as allies plot to scuttle referendum. Our stories on page 4 and 5. And also still on the front page, Antonio blows a condom as he explains how not to use one during World AIDS Day at Mathare Vocational Training Center yesterday. Remember yesterday, again, like we said, it was World AIDS Day, and this is obviously something that we need to focus on as a country. But still on politics, Sakaja linked to shop and buy farm that gets 1 billion KEMSA tenders. Once again, Sakaja is on the spot, definitely not for the right reasons. Well, that story is on page 6. And still going down, woman accuses Arama of assault and calls for justice. Get that story on page 7. And last but not least, Michael Waikanda says, endorse BBI, unite country forever. Story is on page 21. You can still get your copy of the People Daily to join the conversation for today. All you need to do is dial *550 *4#, and for 10 bob, no data, no application. The show starts right now. All right, today we are talking about the BBI and the progress so far as the signature collection is concerned. And of course, we do have our question of the day, which is on your screen right now. Do you have faith in the county assemblies to deliver your expectations on BBI? Do you have faith in the county assemblies to deliver your expectations on BBI? K24 TV across all social media. And our topic for today is the role of county assembly. Joining me, ladies first, of course, I will introduce Mheshimiwa Beatrice Elachi, former Speaker, Nairobi County. Welcome to the show, Madam.
Thank you very much.
Joining us from Nyeri County is Mheshimiwa John Kaguchia, the Speaker of Nyeri County. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana.
Thank you very much and good morning.
Good morning to you too, sir. And also all the way from Makueni County, we do have Mheshimiwa Douglas Mbilu, the Speaker of Makueni County Assembly. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right. I will start with the lady in the house as far as this conversation is concerned. The role of the county assemblies. Mheshimiwa, you have been in the county assembly, you have led it, you have seen debates and you have seen discussions. What is the major role as far as the county assemblies, all 47 county assemblies are concerned? What is their role and how critical is it as far as BBI is concerned?
Well, before I talk about how BBI is concerned, the role of county assemblies are very critical in terms of, first of all, legislation, and really, I think that is the core and oversight. But for me, I always find legislation core in county assemblies. The reasons are county assemblies can change this country with 1 second in your county, and you will see change that you have never seen, depending. Can be negative change or positive change. And I'll give you an example. That today, if the County Assembly of Nairobi would want the deed to go, it will go. They will table it on the floor of the House and they say, we want our functions back. You will have to return those functions. That is how powerful they are. So it is important for us to know that as we now go to the BBI, the role of the county assemblies is very critical in terms of, one, if they do not pass, the bill collapses.
Okay.
That's the end of BBI. So it's not as if they pass it and it goes to Parliament and it fails in Parliament, it does not stop. It goes for a referendum either way.
Okay.
So you find that these are the most powerful. This institution called the County Assembly is the one that gives the head start and a decision that if you want BBI in this country, if it passes in 24, you have it. So for me, what we need to ask ourselves is now in terms of that role of ensuring Kenyans understand the bill, it is critical for county assemblies to do civic education.
Okay.
It is critical for county assemblies, when the bill comes to the county assemblies, I will really, it's just good to have a stakeholders public participation.
Right.
That will take people through a bit to understand how it affects your county, how it supports your county, what are the benefits that you're getting. So the benefits of Nairobi might be different with Makueni, might be different with Nyeri, and therefore every county will look at the document based on their interest.
Okay.
But in the end of the day, I think they are the ones who start the process. And if they pass the process, if 24 counties are able to pass that process, then the process we know will proceed to the referendum.
All right, let me try and be a little bit alphabetical on this one, and I'll go to Makueni and ask Mheshimiwa Douglas. Mheshimiwa, there was a conversation around the situation where they said the County Assemblies Forum had threatened to shoot down the BBI. What happened to that conversation, Mheshimiwa?
Yes, thank you very much. There was a conversation to shoot down the referendum bill, and it is not only the County Assemblies Forum. You remember that came at around when the religious sector and other stakeholders were insisting that there must be dialogue and an engagement about a referendum, and that people must be included.
Yes.
And you remember during the bombers when it was launched, the president indicated that it is important for other stakeholders to be engaged.
Okay.
And so members of County Assembly felt that there are fundamental issues that were not captured and included in the BBI.
Yes.
And in as far as the ward is concerned, the implementation of the projects in the county and the roles of the county assembly, the budgeting process, the autonomy of the county assembly, and also the resources that are allocated to the county. We must say that there are some gains, not everything that has been included in the BBI, but it's a good start for us. But as any other stakeholders, we felt that it is not important that time to engage in a discourse that has no benefit on devolutions and the roles of the county government. Remember, the county assemblies are the protectors of the county governments, not the county assembly. County governments are the lowest level.
All right.
And that was the basis.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mheshimiwa Kaguchia, as people who are closest to the ground, as people who are closest to Wanjiku, so to speak, do you think that Kenyans have read and understood, and especially the people of Nyeri, do you think they have read and understood what is in the amendment bill for 2020, also known as the BBI?
Thank you very much. I would like first to start from the aspect of the use of popular initiative as a preferred mode of change of the constitution. Right. And it's clear that we have two methods that we can apply to change the constitution in our constitution of 2010. That is Article 256 and 257. Right. And whereby we have the parliamentary method, and we also have the popular initiative. It's a bit surprising that the government opted to use the popular initiative, which was ideally reserved for the Kenyans, for the people. Right. This was supposed to be a demonstration of the sovereignty of the people, that if the government would want to change the constitution, it would go through the parliamentary system. Yes. But if the people themselves would want to change, would want the constitution changed in any way because of whatever kind of agitation that they might have, then they were given a room and an opportunity then to go and start and initiate the change of the constitution through the popular initiative. And of course, it's interesting that this time around the government decided to abandon its recommended mode of change of the constitution and went for the other method, which is supposed to be used by the public. And of course, having initiated this process through the popular initiative, what was also expected, and what is expected, is that the members of the public would be given these documents to read. There would be a lot of civic education in the media and also in barazas. And you know and understand, just like I do, that this may not have happened. And we have also been hoping that the public would be provided with this document so that they can also read it. Right. And so far, I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, the public did not have the document itself. What we have is some of the soft copies which have been circulating in the WhatsApps and in the social media. And sometimes some of the copies which are circulating are not the authentic ones. Some of them are fake. They have been altered. They have been changed for propaganda's sake by different players and stakeholders. And so it is still the responsibility of the government to ensure that the public gets this document and reads. And this ought to have happened before the collection of signatures was done. So that at least when you are signing this document, you have an understanding of exactly what it is that you are signing. And I personally do not have an opinion as to whether the document is good or bad, but people ought to be given the document. They ought to be given an opportunity to understand what it is. Then they can be able to sign after they have understood, or if they abstain and abscond signing, then they do so because they have read and understood what they are in, what they are raised in that amendment bill.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I do not think the public has so far been exposed to this document in the way it ought to have been done. Okay.
Thank you. I'll be back to you in regards to what you've just said about the duty of the government to circulate this. But Mheshimiwa Elachi, let me come back to you. Mheshimiwa Kaguchia has just said that the government, or rather the people around BBI, the handshake and so on, decided to make this a public initiative as opposed to taking it through Parliament and so on. Why do you think that is so if there were other options? Is this an easier option? Is this a faster option? Is this a guaranteed option?
No, this is an option that you call inclusivity. Because if you take it to Parliament, then you're telling us only parliamentarians, which they can do. Because some of the amendments you can just put on the floor of the House and they'll pass. But if indeed, and I think that's why Kenyans were very smart in the 2010 Constitution, that we protected some of the articles. And those articles, you cannot touch them without going back to Wananchi. And I think those are some of the articles that the government has touched, and you have to go back to Wananchi. And I think that is why the popular initiative has to be used.
Okay.
Because you are coming in with, you've touched on the Bill of Rights. You look at Article 43, that is very critical. You can't touch the Bill of Rights without going back to a referendum. So, and many other articles that are within the Constitution for amendment.
Right.
But I know, and I've always said, we have the right to feel that this is wrong or right. For me, a popular initiative is important in this country. The only problem we face with our country is we tend to forget so easily. And I think that's why you see even today you can decide you're at Hague, because we forget the steps we have taken in this country. And I don't think we are ready to say we have healed. I think we are like America.
Yes.
That we are so split in the middle and we think we are normal. We are not. We cannot, the handshake that we have right now is what has just tried to lie to us that we are fixing until we fix it. And I would want leaders in this country to start thinking from the time we've come to 2007, where is our country today? If you are not together, you think you can run this country? Even going to 2022 beyond, you will not. Because there are many things, deep things, that we need to come out and just deal with them and face them. And therefore, maybe I come from...
That is beyond BBI.
It's beyond BBI, beyond BBI. Because as I always say, in Kenya, we wake up in the morning and the first thing everyone thinks about is money and how I'll make it. In fact, we don't think about how God can help us to now move our country to next. God comes second.
Yeah, it's how money will help us move forward. Okay.
That's the biggest challenge, and we must come out of that. But having said that, I think the popular initiative is critical. In terms of the process, I think for the first time we've come into steps. Let us agree. It's only that we had too much politics until you refuse to agree that this process is moving. So you remember we start with the process from the time we had the task force. You come in, you validate this document. After a period of time, you agree, you go back. I think as government, they have tried to make it very participatory. It will be wrong for us as our duty, those who are county speakers and us, knowing very well our role in the Constitution.
Right.
It is us who are closer to the people. It is how you take that document. If you say government, who is government? After all, we are being paid with the same public resources. We are using them for public participation. Nobody has ever questioned the committees that we have. We have a legal committee in county assemblies. I believe right now they should have thrashed and told their people within their counties, this is not good for Nyeri, this is not good for Kakamega, this is good for here. For me, Nairobi, I'm saying this is good for Nairobi. Reasons number one, we bring back the functions to Nairobi County. Okay. We restore back Nairobi as a county. And so in Nairobi, you will not listen to your cries. We shall be listening to ours. Yes. And that's why we always say a political process is a process of interest. So even if you come to Kenyans and you tell them, a Kenyan in Mombasa will tell you, we have equalization fund for 30 years. What are you telling us? You're dealing with our land issues now? So I want us to agree. And that's why I said, county assemblies are very powerful to help their county to understand. Do you have any interest in this? If you're going to say no, you're saying no with facts that the interests of Nyeri were not picked.
Okay, I want to ask...
I've just used that as an example, so Mheshimiwa should not... I'm just using it as an example, yeah.
Sure. Mheshimiwa Douglas, let me just ask you, because Mheshimiwa Kaguchia has said that indeed it is the role of government to make sure that people have access to this document and so on and so forth. But where does you as a speaker or even as a county government, county legislature, come in to help people understand what is in the BBI?
Thank you very much. Governments have 2 or 3 arms: executive, legislature, and judiciary.
Yes.
In this case, in the context of the county government, we are dealing with executive and legislature. And a bill or a referendum bill takes a form of a legislative process. I am aware that there has been a debate as to whether public participation has been done. And question number 2 as to whether 2 individuals can germinate or initiate a process of amending a constitution. In my view, any arm or citizens can initiate a process of a referendum because citizens have the power under Article 1, or they can be represented through their democratically elected leaders. In this case, the executive, the presidency, and you cannot ignore the fact that the closest and almost 50% of the last election was Raila Odinga and NASA Brigade.
Okay.
So they are representing a cluster. Now, if this bill is presented to the county assembly, which is the legislative arm of the county government,
yes,
it has the responsibility to ensure the public resources apportioned to it, that they bring to the attention of the citizens, in this case, Makueni, the contents of the referendum bill. So the proponents of the bill, that is the handshake brigade, may not have done enough, but that does not mean that the respective county assembly will proceed and process this referendum bill without making reference to the citizens. So therefore, in this case, county assemblies will have a responsibility to take the bill to the citizens and conduct public participation, bring the contents and the issues to the citizens.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter the qualifications of an MCA, whether there's an engineer, a farmer, or so. There are resources in the respective county assemblies to get consultant and expound further on the content and the issues contained. And therefore, in a legislative process, a county assembly cannot make a vote without involving citizens in that voting process.
Okay.
So I am looking at a situation where county assemblies will provide for that public participation, use the resources that they have to publish more material and bring that content to the people. And that is what we're going to inform the county assembly of Makueni, that of Nyeri, and any other to vote for this referendum bill or not, because MCA are the representatives of the people. They don't vote as individuals, but they vote to convey the voices of the people.
All right, Mheshimiwa Kaguchia, there has been talk, in certain quarters that probably MCAs have been compromised to probably support or not support this document. I don't know, what is your feeling on that one?
Yeah, Mbuvi, I was trying to reply first to the issue that Mheshimiwa Elachi did raise about the use of option of the popular initiative versus the parliamentary initiative.
Right.
And it's important to note that because I'm a constitutional lawyer, it's good to be true to the Constitution.
Yes.
Article 255 of the Constitution is the one that gives all the articles or the clauses that if you touch, you have to go back to the public. And once the Article 255 expounds on those issues, like the Bill of the Bill of Rights and such kind of clauses, if you touch and you have to go back to the public.
Okay.
Now, after 255 is when we go to 256 and 257.
All right.
And 256 and 257 now give those two different initiatives, the popular initiative and the parliamentary initiative. And in both cases, including the parliamentary initiative, you have to go back to the people if you touch on the issues that have been expounded in 255, that is Article 255 of the Constitution.
Yes.
So it doesn't mean that if you're going through the parliamentary system, you will not go back to the public. No, you still have to go to the public if at all you are touching on all the issues that have been expounded in Article 255.
Okay.
So in both cases, you have to go back to the public if you touch on 255. So I wanted to clarify on that point and still stand with my earlier point that for the government, it ought to have used the parliamentary system.
All right.
And the popular initiative, it's popular because it's supposed to be for the public. You know, the drafters of the Constitution of 2010 allowed the public, by its own motion, to start their own process, so long as they can convince 1 million people to sign for that. At that point, then they would be able to go through the popular initiative.
Yes.
And for the government, then it only need to go to the parliament and initiate the process. And you know, of course, this time round, it is the government which has initiated. The arms of government that are available for that is really the legislature.
Okay.
Now, you have asked a question about the MCAs being compromised.
Yes. What I want to do is...
I don't know. I haven't heard about the issue of compromise of the MCAs. Because as we talk today, members of County Assembly have not in any way been involved in the process of the change of the Constitution as far as the process of collection of signatures is concerned.
Okay,
I think the last time members of County Assembly were...
But just hold on to that point. I want to take a short break. Then when we return, of course, you will finish up on that one as we talk about the compromise thereof of certain individuals. But we are asking the question of the day to you, the public, and let us know your thoughts on whether you have faith in the county assemblies to deliver your expectations on BBI. Do you have any faith in the county assemblies, your MCAs, to deliver on your expectations as far as the BBI amendment bill is concerned? Find us on social media. Let's get the conversation going. We'll be right back.